Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining. We'll be getting started in just about a minute or so. I just wanted to remind everyone, if you do have questions as we talk through it, there is a chat function there where you can put your questions right into the GoToWebinar widget there that should be on your screen. So I appreciate everybody joining. And well, you know what, it's 2 o'clock and I think we'll just go ahead and get started. Welcome everybody. My name is Brian Lee. I'm the Parts and Accessories Specialist here in the Northeast region. We're going to get started with today's webinar, and I am happy to present what is going to be a new series for us here in the Northeast region, and that is webinars with a target audience of the parts manager. And so specific to the parts manager, we're calling it an educational series. We're going to do it once per quarter. Today's webinar is going to focus primarily on increasing part sales within the service department. And I'll run down the agenda really quick. We're going to start off by talking about proficiency and how technician productivity directly affects part sales. Then we'll go to the specific things a parts manager can do to help generate sales, processes, having the right parts on hand, and then sales management. We'll talk about accessories a little bit, tools and resources, and again, some questions and answers at the end. My contact information there is on the right-hand side. If any of you need to reach out to me, if you have any questions. Just one thing I wanted to note there on the bottom, any pricing that we have in this presentation is for illustrative purposes only. It's not meant as a guide or intended to sway any of you to change your pricing one way or the other. The first thing I wanted to do is just talk a little bit about sales channels. And what I mean by that is we often say workshop and non-workshop in Volkswagen speak. And it's something that's handed down to us from Germany. And essentially workshop parts are anything that's on a service repair order, and non-workshop is anything outside of a service repair order. So anything that might appear on a counter ticket. That would be wholesale, online, and the boutique, the counter sales. You know, traditionally, parts manager, we hold them accountable for non-workshop, and for the most part, we consider parts sales, you know, the responsibility of the service department, and the service manager is a big driver of that. And what I want to talk about today is, again, what you as a parts manager can do to help support that. If you see the middle stat there, roughly half of our business last year was workshop and half non-workshop. That's been about the trend lately. It's about a 50-50 split. However, at the beginning of this year, the workshop part sales are down. Non-workshops cruising right along, and that's part of the reason why we're focusing on workshop part sales today. So I'm going to start off by talking about proficiency in the shop, technician proficiency. And the bottom line, and if you look to the bottom left, if we're measuring how effective a technician is, what we look at is proficiency. It's basically a measure of how well a technician can use the actual hours that they're in the building to generate billable hours. And we want technicians to have a high proficiency. Why? What's at stake? Well, obviously the labor hours sold, but because we know that parts sold are also tied to labor sold in the service department, it's in everyone's interest to make sure technicians keep moving. And we call that, in the service department, we call it W time or wait time, and is any non-productive time, any time a technician is not actually working on a car. That goes right against their proficiency. So the goal is, and what keeps service managers up at night is keeping W time down. We did a study, and this was thanks to our service coaches, our after sales coaches, on the time it takes for a technician to go rack a car, go to the parts department, get parts, and actually start working on the car. And they did a study and they came up with about 18 to 24 minutes, which was shocking to me. And if you assume that, and we just call it 20 minutes, let's say, and we assume that there's a parts to labor ratio of 80 cents to $1, which is very common. The chart below, we take an effective labor rate of $135. For many of you, it's more than $135. But if we take that and extrapolate it out, basically, if you look at just the second column over, for every minute a technician's standing around, it's costing the dealership $4 in parts and labor sales. If you talk about one vehicle, 20 minutes of wait time, that goes to $81. If a tech brings in 6 vehicles a day, that jumps up to nearly $500. And then for each tech in a month, $10,000. And then you can see on from there, $51,000 in parts and labor sales potentially lost due to a technician not spinning a wrench, doing other things other than fixing a vehicle, installing parts on a vehicle. And as you can see, in parts sales alone, that's nearly $23,000. And I'm sure everybody on this call could definitely use an extra $23,000 in parts sales. So what do we do about it? There's certain things we can't, help a technician rack a car faster. No, but there are many other things we can do to help keep a technician moving. We'll get into a few of the things specifically, but there's some items listed here, just having the right parts. Think about it. Every time you have to special order a part, a technician has to take a vehicle off their lift. Even if you say, well, I'll get that part back in the next day, they're still taking the vehicle off their lift and then bring another vehicle on. All that is time lost and time where sales could be made. There's some other things that you do, other efficiencies like using menu pricing, pre-pulling parts, running parts out to the bays, and then using the technology, including electronic price quotes, to keep advisors out of the price quote process. So let's get a little deeper into processes. And again, I've been talking about technician proficiency, but really everybody should be concerned about productivity and efficiency, not just the technicians, but their own time. Technicians, we want to keep them in their bays and turning wrenches so that they produce more hours and install more parts. Service advisors and parts consultants, though, we can use processes like electronic price quotes and menu pricing to free up their time so that they can advisors can sell more additional work requests. Parts consultants could spend time making additional sales, maybe more time with your wholesale customers. And then parts managers, you get to free some of your time up. If you're reducing your special orders, you don't have to manage that as much, and you can spend some time perhaps developing some new business. So what can the parts manager do? And I broke it down into 3 categories: processes, which we started talking about a little bit, parts availability, and then engaging in sales management. And it's all with the goal of the items in the yellow box on the right. Processes we talked about a little bit. Some additional items I didn't mention, like using parts kits and paying attention to the one-time use fasteners, and there's some resources there that I will go over in just a second. Parts availability, I can't stress enough. It's probably the number one thing you can do to help move things along in the shop, but also to improve your own part sales. And then as a sales manager, which we don't talk about the parts manager enough, frankly, as being a sales manager, but you really are a sales manager first and foremost. Making sure your pricing is right, working on marketing and promotion, display and merchandising, and being part of the conversation with pay plans, bonuses, talking to the service manager and the general manager about how you can motivate some employees to sell. So I'm going to talk a minute about inventory management, because again, it is so vital to the whole process in the service department. And if you start on the light blue slice of pie there, if you will, good inventory management, if you spin it around to the right, you have the right parts, that leads to good customer experience, increased productivity in the shop, happy employees, happy customers that stay with you, increased sales and profit, increased purchases, your purchase performance, your bonus, your buyback. When you have more buyback dollars, what does that allow you to do? It allows you to manage your inventory. If you look on the left, it's just the opposite, right? It spins around the other way. If you're not paying attention to your inventory, your business is going to be either in an upward spiral or a downward spiral, and it really starts and ends with good inventory management. I can't do justice on this call with only 20 minutes left on inventory management, so I'm going to leave you with a few numbers and a few metrics here on how to measure things. We will be talking about inventory management in another one of these webinars later on in the year, but here is some information here. And again, if you have any questions at all on this, please do give me a call. You all and everyone attending here will get a copy of this presentation. So what else? What else can a parts manager do? If we're talking about the sales side of things, as a sales manager, again, I talked about staying competitive, making sure your price matrix is balanced, and having strategy for maintenance items, checking the competition, making sure that you're in line. For marketing and promotion, what are you doing in the store as far as display and merchandising? There's an image on the right there. You have tires on display, accessories. We have financing options with Sunbit, Dignify, our VW service card that can be used to help advisors and parts consultants close sales. Tons of marketing material and planograms that we send you monthly. We have the buy three, get one coming up very soon. We have the physical marketing materials as well as digital marketing materials. And then, of course, there are all the marketing IQ campaigns that your service manager may be very well and aware of, but I would encourage you to work with them as well on bringing those customers into the store. Lastly, employee incentives. We do have some stores that use their PPB and APB dollars to help set up spiffs and incentives for parts consultants, service consultants, even some of the support staff, cashiers, receptionists that get into the process of helping with accessory sales. We've seen that be quite successful. Speaking of accessories, I want to touch on accessories for just a minute, because we're talking about parts. However, service customers, they buy accessories too. And I'm sure that many of you see these vehicles in the service drive, and they have accessories, and we would hope that we were the ones that supplied it to them. And if not, well, what can we do? What can we do to help sell DIA to our service customers? I talked about display and merchandising. We have the displays out in the showroom, we hope, where we have some lifestyle accessories like bikes and kayaks on top of the vehicles. Also using the areas in the service waiting area, the customer lounge near the cashier, using the walls to display some items. And stock what you sell. If you have a plan, you don't have to, if you're not big into accessories right now, pick 2 or 3 items and push it, promote it, have your service advisors out there, let them know that, menu price the accessories. We're going to talk about menu pricing for parts in a second, but give the customer one installed price so they know exactly what it's going to cost them, and it's easy to sell. And make sure your advisors are comfortable and they know how to use the accessory configurator. And we have the accessory configurator that's free for all dealers. It's set up on your website. It's on the board out in the showroom. Advisors could show it on their iPad if they have iPads, but any questions that a customer might have about accessories, service advisors can actually look it up right there in the accessory catalog or the accessory configurator. And just, in the end, Accessories is another profit center for the parts department, for the service department, when you talk about selling the item itself, the accessory bonus, but then also the labor sales that goes along with it as well. So I'm coming down to the home stretch here, believe it or not, and we're going to talk a little bit about resources and tools that can help you with all of these things that I just mentioned. I'm going to start with accessories because that's what we were just talking about, but there are an incredible amount of accessory selling resources, and most of the things that you see here are free. They're at your fingertips right now. It doesn't cost you anything. You just have to go in and access it. It's in on our online accessory catalog, or it's in Marketing IQ. If you have any questions on where to find any of this stuff or how to use it, I'm here. Call your FOM, call me. I'm here as a resource to help you out. I would say, you know, since we're talking about the service department, the accessory configurator is probably going to be your #1 tool in terms of getting customers to see what the items look like on the vehicle, right? Get to play around with, do I want the basket or do I want the roof box instead? See what the installed price is, and then be able to walk over to their advisor or even email the list over to their advisor and say, hey, do you have these items in stock? Can I walk out of here today with these items on our vehicle? We try to get our sales colleagues to use it, but it is also a great tool on the service drive as well. Number of other accessory tools, selling tools within the accessory catalog. The DIA consumer rebate right now is 15%. That's something that Volkswagen funds. That's available to anyone who purchases accessories. And then again, use of the financing options like Sunbit. If for that customer that does want to come in and does want to get that incredible looking gloss cargo box that we sell, but wasn't necessarily looking to spend the kind of dollars that are involved, that's an option to get that customer with that accessory. One-time use fasteners I want to talk about for a second, and I know this has been a pain point for many of us. We have made improvements, and I hope that you have seen some of the resources that are out there. Recently, we published a top 25 frequently installed single-use parts list. That's what you see there in the middle. That will, of course, change, but that's a good way to just double check your inventory, make sure you have these items in stock. As you know, one-time use fasteners are required in many repairs. In many cases, warranty claims will get rejected, but it is also something that you should use mostly for safety reasons when performing even customer pay repairs as well. So making sure you're using, replacing all the bolts and the fasteners that you should be, it's something that you should be on top of. We have put a couple of videos, a couple of resources there in VW Cup. And it shows you the resources in EDCA as well as ELSA. And so I encourage you to go take a look there as well. Just a preview of what is shown in EDCA in the parts catalog. Again, improvements made where you can double click on an item and it will come up with the single-use parts in a particular repair. So another improvement that we recently made, I believe this went live just last week, and it is, this is on the home page of Parts on Command. We now have a campaign list. The campaign list, if you click on it and open it up, it will bring up the 25 most popular recalls or campaigns, and it will give you the specific part listing, not only by the 4-digit campaign code, but you could also enter the 2-digit criteria, and it will give you the specific parts listing needed for that specific repair. This is a Parts Council, a National Parts Council initiative that they were able to get done early this year. And like I said, it went live. This is a great tool, should be a big time saver for you and for your parts consultants. I want to talk about menu pricing, because I think if there's one thing you take away today, I hope that you will look into menu pricing a little bit further. I went online and I found menu pricing from a Honda dealer here, and they proudly display it on their site. That's how I was able to find them. I wasn't looking for an Atlanta area Honda dealer, that's for sure, but I was able to come up and find their menu. They proudly display their menu pricing online. I think that's a great way to get service customers into your store. Parts managers, you may not have control over what is displayed on the service side of your website, but maybe you should be a part of the conversation. But having menu pricing just in general, whether it's online or in the store, I think it's key. You know, I just think for a moment about going into a restaurant and having an idea of what you want to eat, but not knowing exactly what dishes the restaurant has. It's essentially the same thing. And then when you get to it, how much are those dishes that are going to come out to you? Menu pricing, I think, is not only the way to go as far as the customer experience goes, but it helps move things along. We were talking before a lot about technician proficiency, about freeing up time with the consultants, with the parts consultant, the service consultant. When we have menu pricing, we give the advisors an ability to sell much more easily than having to constantly price out things that we are selling all the time. And you could start menu pricing with something as small as just a cabin filter replacement. You know, oil changes, I'm sure for the most part, you guys may do that already. Alignments and tire balance or rotation, I'm sure you have flat pricing for that already. But I know when you get into the items where the parts vary, and sometimes vary greatly, the cost of a pollen filter, let's say, I know that it can be difficult. So there's some menu pricing options there on the right. We have our own Universal Pricing Guide, or UPG, which is a phenomenal tool. And I hope that you explore that. There is some information, VW Cup, on that as well. There is some DMS integrated menu pricing that's available. I know CDK, I believe Reynolds has a version of menu pricing that you can use. There's some third-party solutions like Xtime that offer menu pricing. There are some companies that have the digital boards in the service department as well. But some of you do it yourself, and that's fine also. It's about what works for you. The problem that I mentioned before, and parts managers, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about, is that we use a lot of part numbers. We have a pollen filter, but we don't just have one, we have 10, we have 12, and the pricing can vary. And in order for you to family price, to get one single price on something like a pollen filter, you're either going to guess, or you're going to take a lot of time to try and come up with a number. And if you guess, you run the risk of either overpricing something and limiting your sales, or underpricing and losing out on gross profit. And neither of those are good. The key is to find a weighted average. Find out all of the pollen filters you've sold in 12 months, then the amount of pieces that you've sold in the last 12 months, and then doing the simple math. If you had to do that and run each individual part number, that would take a long time. Some of you have done it. I've heard from you. There's a better way, an easier and a faster way. And I hope you take a look at this today if you can. Parts IQ, you have the ability to go in and do exactly what I just said, except instead of taking, I would say that would probably take about an hour to do what I showed you, what I just showed you. This you could do in probably 2 or 3 minutes. So what you can do is you go into Parts IQ and you look at the bottom right there, that's the pathway, right? And that gets you to tactical segments. Tactical segments is basically, you know, the category of part that's sold. You start with mechanical, you go down to scheduled maintenance, and then eventually you can find something like your air filters, cabin filters, fuel filters, as you see there on the screen. You click on another filter, you can toggle between what you've sold in 12 months and how many pieces you've sold in 12 months. You get the same information in just a matter of minutes. And plus, you could go ahead and do the same thing for air filters, fuel, oil, spark plugs, as you see there. You can do the same thing for brakes, wipers, whatever you want to do. And so now, instead of just doing a cabin filter special, now you can actually price out your 10, 20, 30, 40 Ks and do it with confidence, knowing that you're making the margin on those parts that you need to, but giving the service department the simplicity of what they need in order to menu price out to a customer. We're getting close to the end here, so just if you do have questions, I know I'm going pretty fast, so please, if you have any questions, go ahead and start putting them in the question box there. This is just a summary, essentially, of everything I talked about here. What can a parts department, a parts manager do to help increase sales in the parts department? I'd say it fits into three categories: processes, fill rate with your parts, and sales management. We, again, talked about keeping the technician moving, embracing technology to speed up the price quote system, to keep advisors selling parts. The fill rate, again, I don't think I need to say it another time for the folks on this call. Having the right parts on hand increases customer satisfaction. But as you saw with the first set of numbers I gave you, the wait time of technicians, that greatly gets reduced when you are able to reach on a shelf and be able to fill that demand. And then finally, you know, be a sales manager. Have the sales manager mentality as a parts manager. And I know it gets tough. So you're in the trenches and you're dealing with the day-to-day. But please always be mindful of sales, of your pricing, displays, and merchandising. And please, again, make sure you're part of the conversation with pay plans, not only for your parts consultants, but for the service team as well. Last thing I want to leave you with here, this chart is if you go from left to right, this is essentially the service customer's journey, starting with getting in the door, the walk around with the advisor, and then ending up with the MPI and the sale at the end. And I just laid out how I believe the parts manager and the parts department can be involved in every step of the way. And we should shy away from simply thinking of the parts department as where we stock parts, but as an active part of our after sales business. So that's what I have for now. And again, everyone will get this presentation on selling parts in the service department. If you do have questions, please take a moment now and pop them into the chat there. And it is 2:28. We are just about done with our time, but I will hold on and I will answer any questions that you may have. Thank you. Just seeing some kudos. Nice job. Thank you. Thank you, guys. And by the way, I should have probably started this, but I am not Kristen Coleman, as it probably says on the screen right there. That is our marketing manager, and I'm using her account. So again, My name is Brian L.E. That is my contact information there if anybody needs it. A couple of you just asked, will we get a copy of this? Yes, absolutely. I will use the email that you used when you registered, and I will make sure you'll get a PDF version of this. Someone's asking about tools for Audi dealers. I believe there are some similar tools to what I mentioned, including definitely UPG. With Parts IQ in the family pricing that I mentioned, I know that Audi has a very similar interface as well. Okay, let's see. Lisa has a question. I am new to the franchise, but not to the industry. Is the warranty different if a vehicle is sold with the accessory versus having done after the sale? Yes. Accessories normally have a 12-12 warranty as the same as any spare part. However, if the accessory is sold with the vehicle at the time of the sale, it does assume the new vehicle limited warranty. So as long as, I believe that's 4 years right now, or I may be misspeaking there. Somebody correct me if I'm wrong. It's either 3 or 4 years. The new vehicle limited warranty will carry. That is another great selling point for selling accessories when the vehicle is sold, correct. Let's see. Rick asked, why couldn't Volkswagen uniform their prices? I'll agree with you there that our pricing is complex when we're talking about very similar groups of parts, tactical segments, like we were talking about pollen filters as an example, but we can go across the board from wipers to brake rotors, brake pads. Yes, if you compare us to other OEMs, and I know like Toyota, Honda, they're a little bit simpler. We've gotten better. If you're new to the brand, you may not believe that, but it used to be very, very much probably twice as complex as it is now. So I would say that, go ahead and utilize the tools that I mentioned there, the Parts IQ, that will help for now. I know that they are continuing to work on reducing complexity. Where do I find accessory pricing for the service department? And believe that's in the online accessory catalog. You have a suggested labor time that is built, that is in. If you look on any accessory in our accessory catalog, there is a dealer info tab, and the dealer info tab has the suggested time units. That's a great question. We often run into this where things like remote start and sidestep kits that used to be 3, 4, 5 hours on older vehicles like a Touareg, let's say. The side steps on the suggested time on them are 2 hours. I know because I looked it up in the accessory catalog. Same thing with our remote start kits right now. It's a 2-hour install. Let's see. Flavio asked, fill rate is important, but we can't maintain maintenance parts in stock as there are too many back orders. I agree. We have to put our money where our mouth is. I'm telling you to stock the items that you sell, and we obviously need to be doing the same thing. We do run in from time to time. We run into issues with suppliers. However, we have greatly increased our availability. And I know exactly what it means when you have that customer with the Tiguan waiting for brake rotors. Doesn't mean anything to them, but on a broad scale, we do have a 98% fill rate with our dealers, which is best in class, but we can certainly work on improving it, and we definitely are. Just skimming through, making sure I don't miss any questions here. I will hang on for just another minute to see if there are any other questions. Okay, I don't see anything here, but and so I think we will come to a close. Thank you all very much for attending. I'm excited. I'm excited to be talking to you. I'm excited to get 30 minutes to myself. Normally I get 3 or 4, and glad to be able to expand on some things within the parts department. Most of you know I cover the whole Northeast region. That's more than 200 dealers. I don't get to go out and see most of you face to face like I would. So this is another great way for me to reach out. And please, if you have any questions on what I put out there this afternoon, or if you have anything else that you want to add or ask, please go ahead and reach out and use my contact information. Thanks again. Have a great afternoon, and welcome to the first day of spring. Wow. Take care, everybody. Bye.